Hello. So is there any confusion? So where the application is starts and how it navigates from the main method to other classes, and what's the use of info.plist and what it contains, and what is the use of launch storyboard and assets, and how to create your icon for the application.
Hello, Suresh.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question with the icon creation.
Yes.
When you get into the assets document,
Yeah.
and like you were giving the icon size of 58 by 58 to iPhone 5 and iPhone 5 and 6, which is 29 points.
Yes.
So the icon gets adjusted with its number of points.
No, you see it's 2x, right? So what's the size? We can see 58. So attach it to 58. So 29
Yeah.
points is the 1x. So when I add it to 2x, it should be 58. So my icon size itself is 58.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
icon created with the 58 points. So if there
Okay.
is any error when you attach it, so it will give you the warning.
Okay.
So then it will give you the error and with the what is required. So what is missing as well. We can get the helpline. What is missing from that error.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So this is the basic structure of the application. So we'll see about the properties. So what is the use of properties? Let's create one class. Properties demo, something like that. Like it. So this is the one class I created. Yes, we can see the two files. So let's add some of the values. So when we have not defined anything, so these are by default. By default protected. You can see this value 1 and value 2. So if I want to access these variables, so as I said, first import this. Create an object. So if I want to access, so there is no option to access. To give the public access to the data members, make this as a property. Either you can define both the things at the same line. So we can do this here. So we are able to access now. So when we accessing this public data, so when it is accessed from outside, we can give certain restrictions. So how it is? So the property is having some attributes. So I want to give this as a read only. So value 1 is read only. Here I'm doing it assigning some value. So now you can see the error. it is giving an error. The value 1 is a read only, but we are writing some data to this address, so it doesn't allow. So it is not allowing this. We can, so this is the attribute, what read only attribute works. If you define a read only attributes, this public data will change the behavior. This behavior will be changed when it is accessed from outside of its class. By default, all the properties will have read write, feature. So we'll have a read write access by default. So for the value 2 we have not applied anything, but we can read the value and we can write a value to this variable. Go to this. So when I do the synthesize, I explained you yesterday. So the synthesize yesterday I explained. Synthesize will create inbuilt setter and getter methods for the variables, for the properties. So this we can see it here. So if we change it, by default it's having. So can we write something inside of this class? Let's try. So if you want to access the data, so the property will apply only for public access. It won't restrict you inside of the class when we use the same variable. So we are using this value 1 variable in .m file, so we are able to write some data. But if we do the same operation from with the public access from outside of the class, we were not able to do that because the property attributes will be applied when the data is accessed from outside of its class. So that's where the public access restrictions we can see that. And there are another property we have. So we have a different properties. So we can see here is a read only, and we have a property like let's create another. So I created one ID. So this is a dynamic binding. So this is a one keyword in Objective-C. We use this keyword. If it is integer, we can store only integer values. It is a signed integer, so we can store positive values and negative values. This is ID, which refers to identical to any data type, or it can refers to identical to any variable. Let's see what we can do this ID. Can we assign some value? Will it give some error? So assigning implicit conversion into ID is disallowed. So it's giving some warning. Now I have a string. So this is one object, and I am able to attach it to this object. So I have this is another object. So this object also we are able to assign to id. So previously we assigned string object, later we assigned number object, later we assigned array object, we assigned current object. So it's not throwing any error. So this is an identical object. It will do the dynamic binding. So at runtime, it decides what data type, it changes the data type based on its value. So we are referring to array here. So this will be converted as an array at the time of execution. So now we are adding the self. The self indicates properties demo object. So when we run this at runtime, this id object type will become your properties demo. So when we run this id object type will be changed as like an array. So at dynamically it will get changed. So the type of data will be changed based on the value at the time of at runtime. So this is the basic difference we see from one object to another object. If I said like string, the string can store only string data. So it cannot store any numbers or it cannot store any other data. So it can hold only string data. If it is integer, it can hold only integer data. And if I say something, I want to save it. So if it is having implicit conversion, so it is taking that implicit conversion. If I want to store the character inside of int, so it's taking the implicit conversion. So now it's giving some value. It's taking some ASCII value. It's taking some ASCII conversion. So the comparison is providing us an implicit conversion from character to string, character to integer. Let me assign. If I have a test character, it's taking some implicit conversion. I'm not sure, but in general case, so when we define any data types, like what we have this is the character. So I want to store some string data. So now it's giving some incompatible pointers. So we cannot store one data type to, so this is my string object, I want to store in character. So I was not able to do that. Some of the like converting integer data like ASCII conversion, it do basically the compiler is taking care of ASCII conversion. So ASCII conversion in the sense, so all the alphabets, each alphabet will have some one ASCII value. So if I take like value 1, this is my variable. So if I assign integer data to character data. So it converts this A ASCII value will be stored in this. So capital A value is 65 in ASCII. So that is stored in this. So if I want to assign some another data, so character string, so then it cannot do that. So it is giving that error. So like, so basic things we can do, like one integer to we can able to store integer data only. And if I have some boolean data, so is it true or false, it can store only true or false. So if I want to say something, so if it supports implicit, so now we can see that another warning. So so we can store, if it supports implicit conversion, so it do the implicit conversion. If there is no implicit conversion, so it cannot do any value storages. So but whereas in id, so we can say that it's a dynamic time, it changes to its data type. So now I added ns array. So if you see that the ch is giving some different value, but here we can see that the ch data type is character, but we assigned boolean value, but still it is giving that character. But here the initial data type is id, but when I assigned array, the data type was changed to array. So at time of, it's at the dynamic time, it's changing that data type values. So that is the basic difference between id and other data types. So this is my string in Objective-C. Now you can see that value 2, if you open this, value 2 data type, still it is integer, but we are storing character. So here we are giving a value as a character, but it is the data type value was not, data type is not changed. But whereas coming to id, so the data type is changed to constant string. So based on the value, the data type will get changed for these objects. So if it is id, the data type is id, so it will be changed by default at runtime based on the value. So that is the basic difference we can see. So in the basic question, we will get an Objective-C what is the dynamic binding, so how it is supporting a dynamic binding. So we, if we explain about this id keyword, so we can say this is the basic behavior of dynamic binding works in Objective-C. So in properties we have seen read only value. So if I want to apply another property, I can apply another property on id. So there is another property called copy, and we have a property called strong. So here we can see one property attribute is read only, we have already seen. We have another property called read write. So it supports read and write permissions for this variable while we are accessing this variable from outside of its class in a public scope. So this object supports strong relation. So we have different properties attributes. So the properties attributes is like read only, read write, strong, weak, retain, assign, copy, atomic, non-atomic. These are the property attributes are available in Objective-C. So we will talk about one by one. So we have already seen read only. So how it works? We have seen read write, how it works. So what is the strong and what is the weak? Strong. The strong reference, for example, this is one object. So this is one class. So I created two objects for this. pd1 dot id object is equal to pd dot identical object. So by default, this is a strong property. So whatever the value is there in this, so that will be copied. So later I'm changing that pd1 dot id object new data. Let's print. So now we see the another keyword. So this is a string syntax. If you see in C language, we use printf. This is the syntax for printf string. First we should follow the formatter, and after that we have to give the value. So but whereas in ObjectiveC, the ns log is like a printf kind of function. It's a log function. So it follows a string format concept. So the string will start in C language. Strings are defined between double quotes, but in ObjectiveC it followed with at the rate, and the string will start with double quotation, ends with double quotation. So this is starting and ending. This is one string. So ns log will follows two arguments. Either if you want to give one argument, we can give in between. So if I want to attach another object, we'll use formatter. So this is like similar like pure printf. So here in printf we use %i and %d. So based on the data type, we'll change this keyword. So if it is data type integer, we'll use %i or %d as a formatter. If it is a character, we use in %c. If it is string, we use %s. If it is long, we use %l. So this we used in C language. Same formatters will be used when we want to display one object. We'll use %@. This is like a formatters which they are in converting one data type to string data type. So this object is converted to string. So we'll tell you more when it comes to strings. So now we'll see. So what will happen? So here this object, so id object is having a value welcome. So now let's see what's the, so here this object is having value 1, value 2 property as well as id object. Id object is having a value string welcome, and we have another property object pd1. So this is also having some variables like value 1, value 2, id object. Here this is having welcome, and we can see that id object is changed to new data. Right now it's a pd1 is having another data is called new data. So earlier is welcome, later is changed to new data. So if I print it, so I'm getting a new data because it is there. If I look at the pd object, now look into this object, what is this id object is having. So one is null and one is new data. Null. So here it's like strong references. What happens? So when we create this is like id object is a property called strong. The strong property will create the references. So when we assign one object, like we created three objects for this class properties demo. So the three objects is like PD, PD1 and PD2. So whatever the value is there in this id object, so the same value, the same address is referred from this another object, at the same address is referred by the another object. So means instead of creating a new memory locations, we are increasing the reference counts. So when talk about, now we are coming into the another area is called reference counts. So this is our memory address, id object we stored welcome. So now this memory is referred by three variables now. So the variable one is, so this is the one, and this is the second one, this is the third one, like three books are referring this address. So now the same address is referred with three objects. So if any one object, if I want to remove it, these three objects are strongly referred. The strongly referred in the sense, if this object wants to be deallocated, this will get deallocated when these two objects will get deallocated. So this address is, for example, if this address needs to be deallocated, then this address, so these all references should be nil. So then only this address will get deallocated. The strong reference in the sense, so now the three references are pointing to one memory location. If this memory location is needs to be released, or if this memory location needs to be deallocated by the compiler, then the references should be 0. If these three objects, if these three references got deleted, then this will get deleted from the memory. If any one is referring this address, then this will be still available in the memory. So this is the basic concept happens with strong reference. So this works with like a reference count. Once the references are increased, so here we can see that this is having one value. So like, let's go to this is having one string value. So the same string is referred by, so we assign here. So whenever we assign, so it's make one reference, since it is a strong reference. When I assign something, the same object is referred by the pd2.idobj. So these three are, this is like 2 and this is like 1, this is like pd. So these are the different objects. These variables are referring to the same address. So when this address will be deallocated whenever these three references get deallocated. If any one is there in the memory, so this address will be available in the memory. That happens with strong references. If the three are strong references, then this memory won't be deallocated until unless these objects get deallocated. So if these three objects lose the reference for this address, if these three are lost the reference to pointing to this address, then the compiler will clear this address, memory address, or else it will keep that as it is in the memory. So that happens with strong references. And we have another concept is like a weak. Now this is the weak. If I keep it like a weak, in the weak case, the first initial address is allocated with this object pd. So later I assign this to pd1 and pd2. So these two objects are using the same address which is pointed by the pd. If this pd object is nowhere in the memory, so if these are weakly referred, if these are weak references, if the main initial referenced object, this is the main referenced object which is pointed to that address, if this got deallocated, then the compiler will take other things as like a low priority to deallocate that reference. So in that scenario we'll use the weak. For example, there are the two classes which we use. So for example, this is a property. So for example, here we can see that. So I used another class. So I created that object and I keep this as like a weak reference. It's meaning that if this object, if the properties demo object is, we have different objects. If any of these object is get deallocated, so inside of this we have a, so let's come to another class. This is the memory for your sub property. So this is the memory for your property object PD. So inside this PD we have one reference to subproduct. We have one reference to subproperty. So this reference will point to this address. So if this PD is got deallocated, if this reference is having a weak reference, this reference will be deleted and the whole thing will get deallocated. It won't be there in the memory. If this is weakly referred to this address, if it is a weak reference, if the main object is deleted, then the whole address reference will completely deleted from the memory. So if the all data values are there in that object as weak referenced, if it is a strong reference, then it won't be deallocated. So this object we cannot deallocate if it is a strong. So the whole memory will available in this memory address. Have you understood this difference, strong and weak? Hello, hello, is there any, is this concept is clear, like difference between weak and strong?
Could you explain weak one more time?
So weak, for example, this is our object property we created. PD is one of the object. This PD object is having one value is like a sub property. So we created a sub properties. So this sub property we created one object sub obj. This is one of the object which is there in this PD reference. So the PD reference is having different properties, like this is one, and like we have value 1. So this object is having different values. Value 2. So these are the different properties are there in this object. So if I want to deallocate this object will get deallocated. So it will be deallocated if all of these data values are weakly referred. Now we say that this object is having a weak reference. So sub obj is one of the object of the sub property class. So this sub property is already having some memory. So when this memory is pointed with another reference, it's weakly referred. This address is referred weakly by this property. So if I want to delete this PD, so once the PD got deleted, if this property is having weakly reference, then it will get deallocated. So if it is strongly referred, the whole thing will be, the memory will be, memory won't be deleted for the PD. If any of the property is strongly referred to another address, until unless all the dependencies are got cleared, then only this will get deallocated. Until then this property won't get deallocated, then the super properties also be in the same mode. So like these two still available in the memory address, this won't get deallocated if this is strongly referred. If it is weakly referenced, so if I delete this PD, then this reference automatically will get deleted. So this connection will get lost. So if I delete this PD, this connection will be lost. So without any priority. So that is the difference between weak and strong. If it is strong, if I want to delete this address, all strongly referred objects will get deallocated. Then only this will get deleted. So this is the memory address. If I want to delete this, even if one object is referring to this address as a weakly referred, so then it won't take high priority for the weakly referred address. It will delete the object without considering the any weak references. Weak references always be dependent on the strong object. If the strongly referred object is got deallocated, so all inside of the weak references will get deallocated. Since the property demo object is strongly referred, so if that address is deleted, the subproperty is a weak reference, it will get deleted automatically. So then it will check before this property demo get deallocated, will check for this ID object. Since it is a strong object, whether is it already deallocated or not. If it is deallocated, then only this object is eligible for deallocation. Is any of the properties of this PD is having memory reference with strongly memory references, so then this won't get deallocated. If all the memory address of the PD is got deallocated, then only this main reference will get deallocated. So since it is having 4 objects, if all these 4 is there are any strong references, we have one strong reference, so that is with ID OBJ. This is strongly referred. If I want to delete the PD reference from the memory, so this is strongly referring to this one, this should be deleted first. If this reference, if the ID object lost the reference, then only this PD object will get deleted. So until this memory address is got lost, it won't get deleted. So if this reference got deleted first, then only this PD get deleted from the memory. So that is the priority. So priority will check for the strong references, always be there in the memory until unless it won't be disconnected from the address. So we needs to disconnect this, then only the holding reference will get deleted. So now the PD is holding the one strong reference, one weak reference. So it is when we are applying for deallocation for PD, it is not considering this weak reference. It is taking its weak reference will get deleted automatically. So there is no dependency. But is there any strong references are holding by that specific object? Until unless the strong references lost the address reference, then only the main object will get deleted. That is the basic difference for strong and weak. Like strongly reference and weakly reference, that we can see that the reference to the memory address that we need to capture here. So this strong and weak works in ARC mode. So okay, this is the basic difference for strong and weak. Is there any question in strong and weak?